Carroll Eustice is 71 years old, and he's been farming the same 880 acres outside Onarga since 1976. The tractor he drives every spring and every fall is the same 1996 John Deere 8200 he bought brand new for $98,400 the March. His daughter started kindergarten. The 8200 has a 7.6-liter 6076 TF Turbo 6 and a 16-speed PowerShift behind it. By the spring of 2024, the hour meter read 14,840. So when Carroll drove that tractor down to the Decatur Harrell Brothers John Deere store in early May 2024 for what should have been a routine diagnostic, he was not expecting the service manager to tell him the tractor was scrap. If this kind of story matters to you, the kind where the numbers tell the truth and the work speaks for itself, we'd be honored if you subscribed. The service manager's name was Hudson Craven. 44 years old, slim, slicked-back, dark hair, the kind of pressed corporate polo and rimless glasses you don't usually see on a service floor manager who came up turning wrenches. Hudson didn't come up turning wrenches. Hudson had been hired the year before, when Harrell Brothers Equipment of Indianapolis had bought up the old family-owned dealership and started rolling out the corporate playbook. The diagnostic took 40 minutes. When Hudson came back to the customer waiting area, he had a printed quote in one hand and his customer relations smile fixed in place. "Mr. Eustice, sit down," Hudson said. "I'll stand," Carroll said. "Suit yourself, sir." The diagnostic threw 3 trouble codes. The primary is PTP 127.01. That's transmission oil pressure very low. The secondary is PTP 168.04. Voltage out of range on the transmission control module. There's also a temperature sensor reading high on the trans-fluid line. 3 codes, Carroll said. 3 codes. The combination on a 1996 PowerShift points to internal transmission failure. We're looking at a full PowerShift rebuild. Parts come to roughly $24,800. Labor at our shop rate of $185 an hour. Estimated 80 hours runs another $14,800. All in, $39,600 of work. Carroll did not blink. Carroll has spent 50 years not blinking when somebody says a number he doesn't like. On a tractor that retails today for $34,000, Hudson said, the math doesn't pencil. We can take her for parts at zero trade against a new 8R250. We've got one on the lot, $214,000, financed at 6 1/4 over 5 years. Payments come to $4,140 a month. We can have you in the new cab by Friday. Zero trade, Carroll said. Zero trade, Mr. Eustice. Hudson, my 8200 was running clean Tuesday morning when I drove her here, Carroll said. Sir, the diagnostic stands. Code PTP 127.01 doesn't lie. PTP 127.01 says the transmission oil pressure is low, Carroll said. It doesn't say the transmission is destroyed. There are 6 things upstream of the PowerShift that could throw 127.01. With respect, sir, our certified shop diagnosis stands. With respect, Hudson, your certified shop diagnosis is wrong. If you're still here, subscribe. We don't rush these stories, because the people in them didn't rush the work. Carroll signed nothing. He drove the 8200 the 76 miles back to Onarga at road gear. The hydraulics worked. The PowerShift shifted clean. The tractor ran the way she had run for 28 seasons. He pulled into his gravel yard a little before 6 and sat in the cab for 10 minutes with the engine off. Then he went inside and called Earl Braddock. "Earl, Carroll Eustice, from outside Onarga," Carroll said. "Carroll, it's been a couple of years," Earl said. "Earl, I need a second opinion. Decatur Harrell Brothers told me my 8200's PowerShift is shot. They want zero trade against a new 8R for $214. The tractor drove home from the dealership in road gear without missing a beat." "Hudson Craven told you that?" Earl asked. "You know Hudson?" Carroll asked. "I know the play, same outfit that bought the Paxton dealership in 2023. What codes did the diagnostic throw?" "PTP 127.01 primary, PTP 168.04 secondary, plus a high side temp reading on the trans fluid line." Earl was quiet for a beat. "Carroll, that's not a transmission failure. That's the priority valve in the hydraulic stack stuck open. The PowerShift can't get oil pressure because the valve is dumping the supply back to the sump. Cascading codes through the trans control because the lube circuit can't build pressure. The fix is a $640 replacement valve and a fresh seal kit. Half a day at Virgil's shop." $640, Carroll said. $640, plus 4 hours of Virgil's labor. Call it $1,1300 all in. Carroll let out a breath he'd been holding since he left Decatur. "Earl, you're telling me Hudson quoted me $39,600 on a $1,300 fix," Carroll said. "I'm telling you, Hudson hoped you'd take the zero trade and walk out with a new 8R financed for $214,000. Drive her over to Virgil's tomorrow, 8 in the morning. I'll bring the coffee." Carroll drove to Virgil's two-bay shop on Route 9 a little before 8 on Wednesday morning. Virgil walked around the 8200 once, climbed up in the cab, ran her through the gears in the gravel drive, climbed down, and shook his head. "Earl's right. Every gear engages. Hydraulics produce low pressure, but not zero pressure. The codes Hudson saw are downstream of the priority valve, not from the trans itself." "Can you fix her?" Carroll asked. "I'll have her back together by Friday afternoon. Replacement valve runs $640 from Owen Stern's parts counter in Champaign. Owen stocks the 8x00 series parts. My labor at $115 plus 4 hours, plus a fluid drain and fill, all in $1,290. $1,290 against $39,600, Carroll said. $1,290 against $39,600, Virgil said. "Earl, what was Hudson trying to do?" Carroll asked. "Hudson was trying to get your $8,200 for parts at no cost and put you on a payment book for the next 60 months. "How does a man get away with that?" Carroll asked. "By picking customers who don't have a Virgil to call." Virgil pulled the priority valve off the hydraulic stack at 9:45 Wednesday morning. The valve was stuck open in the closed position. A single rubber seal had failed on the spool sleeve, a $14 seal at the heart of a $640 assembly. Owen Stern's delivery driver dropped the new valve at Virgil's shop a little after 1 Thursday afternoon. Virgil installed it before the dinner bell. The 8200 cleared all 3 codes on the second engine cycle and ran every gear clean at full PowerShift load. Carroll wrote Virgil a check for $1,290 and drove the 8200 home to Onarga. That night, he sat at the kitchen table and laid the Decatur diagnostic and Virgil's invoice side by side. His wife, Mavis, poured a fresh cup of coffee and sat down across from him. 39.6 against 12.90, Mavis said. Difference of 38,310. On a $14 seal, Mavis said. On a $14 seal inside a $640 valve. Carroll, what should you do about Hudson? Mavis asked. Earl said I should call Kirby Tonneson at John Deere Corporate. Then call him in the morning. Mavis, it feels like making a fuss, Carroll said. Carroll Eustice, $38,310 is not a fuss. That's a quote that was meant to take your tractor and your savings in one afternoon. Kirby will want to know. All right, Mavis, Carroll said. Mavis poured Carroll a fresh cup of coffee and sat down across from him at the table. You remember 1996 when we bought her? She asked. I remember. You worked your tail off for 2 years to put $32,000 cash down. We financed the other $66,400 with Farmers State Bank at 8.5% over 5 years. I remember the rate. You paid that loan off in March of 2001, never missed a payment. The $8,200 has earned every dollar back twice over since. She has. Hudson Craven was going to take her for nothing and put us into a $214,000 note at 71 years old. That's not a customer relationship, Carroll. That's a robbery in a Navy polo. That's what it is. You call Kirby in the morning. I'll write the letter to Earl. Mavis, Earl didn't ask to be thanked. Earl never asks. Earl gets thanked anyway. Earl received Mavis's handwritten card the following week. Plain white folded note, single line of cursive on the inside. Earl, you saved us $215,290 in one tractor. The Eustices will not forget. Mavis and Carroll. Earl propped it on the kitchen mantel beside the half-dozen other thank-you notes from the previous 2 years. That makes 5 cards on the mantel, Ruth said over dinner Thursday. 5 cards on the mantel, Earl said. How many phone calls do you suppose Lane Bronsdorf has taken in his lifetime? Lane is 74. He's been taking those calls since the 1970s. Hundreds and hundreds. That's the network. That's the network. You're Lane now, Earl. I'm 100 phone calls behind Lane. Then take the calls. I take the calls, Ruth. Carroll, one more thing. What? Carroll asked. Bring the brown accordion file with you in the morning. 28 years of receipts on the 8200. Show Earl. Show Virgil. Show whoever needs to see them. Hudson didn't pull a record on this tractor. We have all of them. All 28 years. All 28 years. Earl drove out to the Eustice place Thursday morning and looked through the brown file at the kitchen table for an hour. Carroll had a receipt for every oil change, every filter, every belt and hose since March of '96. The first 17 years of those receipts had a single signature at the bottom in faded blue ballpoint, E. Rundquist. Pierce Halter at the Watseka Massey store keeps the old Lyman service archive in his back office, Earl said. Pierce came up through Lyman's. He'll cross-reference your receipts against the dealership's own copies. If your 28 years show no PowerShift complaints, you've got documentary proof Hudson's diagnosis was wrong. Pierce works for Massey now, Carroll said. Pierce works for Massey now. Pierce also keeps the Lyman archive on his own time. He'll pull what you need. Carroll drove to Pierce Halter's office at Watseka Massey on Friday with the brown file under his arm. Pierce met him at the front counter. Carroll, Earl called yesterday, Pierce said. I brought all of them, Carroll said. Pierce led him into a back office where a tall wooden filing cabinet held Lyman family carbon copy service records dating to 1968. They worked through Carroll's file for 90 minutes. Every year matched, every entry cross-referenced, every PowerShift inspection from 1996 forward came back clean. Carroll, your 8200 was serviced by Elias Rundquist for the first 17 years of her life, Pierce said. Elias retired in 2013. He's 76 now, lives outside Buckley. Elias inspected your PowerShift in 2008 and again in 2012. Both times he noted the transmission was running in factory spec. Both times he noted the priority valve seal had been replaced. Once in 2008 at 6,840 hours under warranty. 16 years between failures on a $14 seal. That's a healthy hydraulic system, not a destroyed one. Pierce, Hudson knew this, Carroll said. Hudson knew this if he ran the diagnostic against corporate's dealer network service history database, which Harrell brothers can access, which Hudson should have queried before he made the trade-in offer. He didn't query it, Pierce said, or he queried it, saw the seal history, and ran the offer anyway. Either way, Carroll, that's the case Kirby Tunnison will want. Carroll drove out to Elias Rundquist's small farmhouse outside Buckley that afternoon. Elias was 76, lean, full white beard down to his collarbone, a faded green John Deere cap from the 90s. He met Carroll at the back door with a coffee already poured. Pierce called. Bring the Decatur paperwork in, Elias said. They sat at the kitchen table for 2 hours. Elias pulled his own carbon copy archive from a cardboard box in the basement. He flipped through to 2008, the first seal replacement, and to 2012, his last service on the 8200, before he retired. Carroll, in 2008 I told you the priority valve seal would need replacing again somewhere between 14,000 and 16,000 hours. You did? I forgot, Carroll said. You're 71. You've farmed 800 acres for 50 years. You forgot a single line item in a 2008 service ticket. That's not your failing. That's why a service tech writes the ticket and a dealer keeps the file. Hudson didn't keep the file, Carroll said. Or he kept it and ignored it, Elias said. Either way. Elias, will you write something down? I'll write a sworn affidavit. I'll mail it to Kirby Monday. I'll testify in person if it goes to a hearing. You're 76. I'm 76, and I serviced your 8200 for 17 years. Hudson Craven didn't service her for 1 minute. The truth on this matter is mine to put on paper. Elias wrote the affidavit Saturday morning at his kitchen table on a 1978 IBM Selectric he'd kept since Lyman's bought him a new one and let him take the old one home. 3 pages, clean type, single-spaced, notarized by the same Buckley notary he'd used for 30 years, mailed to John Deere Corporate Compliance in Moline, first thing Monday morning. Kirby Tunnison called Carroll the following Wednesday a little before 10. Mr. Eustice, Kirby Tunnison, John Deere Corporate. Mr. Tunnison, Carroll said, I have your file open. I have Mr. Rundquist's affidavit. I have Pierce Halter's notarized cross-reference of 28 years of Lyman service records. I have Mr. Kemp's invoice and the Decatur Harrell brothers' diagnostic side by side. And, Carroll asked, Mr. Eustice, You're the third farmer in 90 days who's brought me a Hudson Craven diagnosis that doesn't match his own service history. The first two paid $34,000 and $41,000 for unnecessary PowerShift rebuilds in the Decatur shop. 3 of us, Carroll said. 3 of you. That's enough to open a regional investigation. What happens now? Carroll asked. A Harrell Brothers regional compliance team will be in Decatur within 14 days. Mr. Craven will be on suspension within 21. The investigation will identify every customer who got an inflated quote or a zero-trade lowball at that location going back to the 2023 acquisition. Will the other 2 get their money back? Carroll asked. They will, Kirby said. Plus interest, plus a written apology from Harrell Brothers Regional, plus a follow-up service confirming the actual condition of their tractors. Kirby, thank you. Thank Earl Braddock. He's the second farmer in 6 months who's brought me a Harrell Brothers file good enough to act on. I'll thank Earl, Carroll said. Thank Elias Rundquist, too. The Lyman archive was the difference. I'll thank Elias. By the end of June 2024, Hudson Craven had been terminated. The compliance team identified 14 customers between January 2023 and May 2024 who'd received inflated PowerShift repair quotes ranging from $24,800 to $48,200. 6 had paid for the unnecessary work. 4 had taken zero-trade lowball offers and walked out with a new 8R on a payment book. 4 had walked away with their tractors broken. Total fraudulent quote, inflation across the 14 customers, roughly $342,000. 6 refunds went out within 30 days. 4 trade-in adjustments were applied retroactively. Carroll Eustice's restitution was 0. Carroll had paid nothing wrong. Carroll's vindication came in writing. The Bloomington Harrell Brothers manager, a man named Burton Garagty, who'd taken his own beating in the Earl Braddock censor case the previous year, wrote Carroll a hand-typed letter in early July. 2 paragraphs. Burton said, when he read the Decatur file, he recognized the same playbook that had wrecked his own dealership the year before, that the corporate office had now mandated quarterly third-party audits across all 6 Harrell Brothers stores, and that he hoped this was the last apology letter he'd ever write to a Harrell Brothers customer. Carroll wrote him back in 3 lines, apology accepted. Be the manager who reviews the diagnostic before the parts manager writes the quote. Carroll kept Burton's letter with the original 1996 sale receipt, the Decatur diagnostic, Virgil's invoice, Elias's affidavit, and Pierce's archive cross-reference. 6 pieces of paper across 30 years and 1 near miss. Mavis sent Earl a thank-you card the same week. Plain white folded note, 1 line of cursive on the inside. Earl, you saved us $215,290 in 1 tractor. The Eustices will not forget. Earl propped it on the mantel beside the other thank-you cards he'd collected over the previous 2 years. Ruth read it Thursday evening over his shoulder. How many cards is that now? Ruth asked. 5 since 23. Earl, you're getting a reputation. The reputation worth having. The 1996 8200 ran Carroll's 880 acres through the rest of the 2024 season. Every spring tillage pass, every fall harvest pull on the grain cart. Our meter clicked over to 15,440 by November. The priority valve held. The PowerShift engaged clean. Carroll told Pierce Halter at the Onarga Farm Bureau Coffee. In October, he expected another 5,000 hours out of the 8,200 before he'd start thinking about a replacement. Hudson Craven's offer would have cost Carroll $214,000 of new financing on top of giving up a tractor he loved. The tractor that pulled every spring planting since the year Bill Clinton was sworn in for his second term. $215,290 difference, Carroll, Pierce said over the coffee. $215,290, Carroll said. Earl Braddock taught the county how to ask for a second opinion on a dealer diagnosis. Elias Rundquist taught the county where to find the records to back the second opinion up. That's the lesson. Dale Voss came by the Braddock place on a Saturday in mid-July. White GMC Yukon, ruddy face, wire-rim glasses. Earl, heard about the Decatur thing. You heard, Earl said. You and Carroll Eustice took down another Harrell Brothers manager, Dale said. Carroll did the work, Earl said. I made one phone call. You're getting a reputation, Earl, Dale said. The reputation worth having, Dale. Hudson Craven had a wife and 2 kids in college, Dale said. You cost him a job. Hudson Craven cost 6 farmers $228,000 in unnecessary PowerShift work. The college tuition came out of those 6 farmers' pockets. We just gave it back. You make it sound clean, Earl. It is clean, Dale. Most people don't like that it's clean. Dale climbed back in his Yukon and left without another word. He didn't bring up the Decatur dealership at the August Farm Bureau meeting either. Elias Rundquist drove out to the Eustice place one Saturday in early September. Carroll had the 8200 hooked to a Brent grain cart pulling alongside the 1996 9500 combine in the South 80. Elias stood at the headland for 10 minutes watching the 8200 work. Didn't take his eyes off her once. Carroll, that's a good running PowerShift, Elias said. That's a $1,290 PowerShift, Carroll said. That's the right number for that PowerShift. Elias, will you come back next year? Carroll, I'll come back every year I'm still alive to drive. Then I'll see you next year, Carroll said. You'll see me next year, Elias said. The 1996 John Deere 8200 sits in Carroll Eustice's machine shed outside Onarga, original chassis, original PowerShift, hour meter at 15,440 and climbing towards 16,000. Carroll's $98,400 sale receipt, the zero-trade Decatur offer, Virgil's $1,290 invoice, Elias's affidavit, Pierce's cross-reference, and Burton Garagny's apology letter all sit in the brown accordion file in the top drawer of the kitchen hutch. 6 pieces of paper, one $14 seal, one $215,290 question that was answered by a 71-year-old farmer who picked up the phone and called the right neighbor. By the end of 2024, Pierce Halter had received 5 more requests from farmers asking him to pull Lyman service records on tractors that other Harrell Brothers stores had quoted as unrepairable. Pierce charged none of them. He told Earl the Lyman archive had become a community asset more than a business one, and he was fine with it staying that way. Elias Rundquist drove out to consult on 3 of those tractors before the 2025 spring planting. The chain held. Pierce Halter at the Watsakamassie store told Earl over coffee one Saturday morning in February 2025 that the Lyman archive in his back office had become an open resource for any farmer in the region who needed a second opinion on a dealer diagnosis. Pierce had pulled records on 12 different Harrell brothers diagnoses by then. 8 had come back showing the dealer's quote was inflated. 2 had been honest diagnoses. 2 were inconclusive. Pierce charged none of them. He told Earl the work was its own pay. Earl told Ruth that night that the chain was finally bigger than any one farmer who'd started it.